The door slammed so hard, it rattled the windows of the small adobe house on the edge of Fort Stanton, New Mexico. And Victoria Jane knew right then that her life was about to change forever in ways she could not yet imagine. It was May 1878, and the spring air carried the scent of desert sage and something she could not name, something that felt like an ending and a beginning all tangled together in her chest. She stood in the bedroom she had shared with her husband for 3 terrible years, her hands shaking as she folded the last of her calico dresses into the worn leather trunk her mother had given her when she married. The bruise on her left arm had faded to a sickly yellow, but the memory of how she got it burned bright and hot in her mind. Victoria was 22 years old, and she had decided that morning that she would rather die alone in the desert than spend one more night under Martin's roof. Her husband had left before dawn to drive cattle to the northern pastures, and she had maybe 6 hours before he returned. 6 hours to pack everything she owned, hitch the wagon, and disappear into the vastness of New Mexico territory before he could stop her, before he could hurt her again. Before he could tell her in that cold, flat voice that she was worthless, that no one would ever want her, that she belonged to him like the horses in his stable belonged to him. She had been packing for 2 hours when she heard the sound of hoofbeats outside. Her heart dropped into her stomach like a stone into a well. He was back early. She was not ready. The wagon was not hitched. Her trunk was only half packed, sitting open in the middle of the floor like evidence of her betrayal. Victoria's breath came in short gasps as she ran to the window and peered through the thin curtain. But the horse tied to the post was not Martin's big bay gelding. It was a smaller paint horse, and the man standing beside it was not her husband. The cowboy was tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a dusty brown hat and a leather vest over a faded blue shirt. She did not recognize him at first, but then he turned his face toward the house, and she saw it was Vincent Rourke, the foreman from the neighboring ranch. She had met him exactly twice in her life, both times at church socials where Martin had kept her close to his side like a prized possession he was afraid someone might steal. Vincent had kind eyes, she remembered. Deep brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled, which was not often but seemed genuine when it happened. Victoria froze, unsure whether to answer the door. What was he doing here? Had Martin sent him? But that made no sense. Martin would never send someone else to deal with his wife. He would come himself, full of rage and righteousness. She heard Vincent's boots on the wooden porch, heard his knock, firm but not aggressive. She stood perfectly still, hoping he would think no one was home and leave. But then his voice came through the door, low and concerned. "Mrs. Jane, I saw smoke from your chimney and your door was open earlier. Just wanted to make sure everything is all right." She closed her eyes, knowing she had no choice. If she did not answer, he might come back later with others, might tell people he was worried, might cause exactly the kind of attention she could not afford right now. She walked to the door and opened it just wide enough to show her face, trying to arrange her features into something that looked normal and calm. "Mr. Rourke," she said, proud that her voice did not shake. "I am fine, thank you, just doing some housework." Vincent's eyes moved past her into the house, and she knew the moment he saw the trunk. His gaze came back to her face, taking in details she wished he could not see. The way her hair was coming loose from its pins, the tightness around her mouth, the way she was holding the door like a shield between them. His expression shifted into something careful and deliberate, like a man approaching a skittish horse. "Madam, I do not mean to intrude, but are you leaving?" Victoria felt her composure crack. She could lie, but what was the point? He could see the truth right there behind her, and something about the gentleness in his voice, the complete absence of judgment or threat, made the words tumble out before she could stop them. "Yes, I am leaving. Martin does not know yet. He will be back soon, and I need to be gone before then." Vincent took off his hat, holding it in both hands. "Does he hurt you?" The directness of the question stunned her. In 3 years, not one person had asked her that. Not her neighbors. Not the women at church who surely saw the bruises she tried to hide. Not the doctor who had set her broken finger last winter and accepted Martin's story about her being clumsy with a door. Vincent Rourke, a man she barely knew, was the first person to look her in the eye and ask the truth. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, he does." Vincent nodded once slowly, as though she had confirmed something he already suspected. He looked down at his hat, turning it in his hands, then back up at her. "Where are you planning to go?" "I have a cousin in Santa Fe. I have not seen her in 5 years, but she told me once that if I ever needed help, her door was open. That is 3 days by wagon, maybe 4. I have some money saved. Not much, but enough." "Santa Fe is a long way for a woman alone," Vincent said quietly. "The roads are not safe. There are outlaws between here and there, and worse." "I know," Victoria said, lifting her chin, "but staying here is worse than any outlaw." Vincent was silent for a long moment, his brown eyes searching her face. Then he put his hat back on and said something that changed everything. "Let me help you pack. We can get you out of here faster if there are 2 of us working." Victoria stared at him. "Why would you do that?" "You do not even know me." "I know enough," Vincent said simply. "I know your husband is a cruel man who does not deserve you. I know you are brave enough to leave. And I know I cannot stand here and let you try to do this alone when I could help." He paused, then added, "My mother left my father when I was 12. She packed us up in the middle of the night and we ran. It was the best thing she ever did. I remember how scared she was. I remember how hard it was. I will not watch another woman go through that alone if I can help." Something in Victoria's chest loosened, just a fraction. She had been so alone for so long, carrying the weight of her fear and shame in silence, that the simple offer of help felt like water in the desert. She opened the door wider. "Thank you," she said, and meant it with every fiber of her being. Vincent stepped inside and immediately began assessing the situation with the practiced eye of someone used to solving problems. He looked at the half-packed trunk, at the pile of belongings on the bed, at the dishes still in the cupboard. "What are you taking and what are you leaving?" "Just clothes, some personal things. I do not want anything that was his. Smart. Travel light. Do you have a wagon in the barn?" "But I have not hitched it yet." "I will do that. You keep packing. We need to move fast." Vincent strode through the house with purpose, and Victoria felt herself moving faster too, energized by his presence and his certainty. She folded clothes with shaking hands while he went out to the barn. She could hear him working, the jingle of harness, the low voice he used to calm the horses. When he came back inside, she was closing the lid of her trunk. "Wagon is ready," he said. "Let me carry that for you." He lifted the trunk like it weighed nothing and carried it outside. Victoria gathered her few remaining possessions: a photograph of her mother who had died when she was 16, a Bible her grandmother had given her, a silver hairbrush that had belonged to her sister. She was wrapping the hairbrush in a scarf when she heard it again. Hoofbeats. Multiple horses this time, coming fast. Vincent heard it too. He was back inside in an instant, his hand on her arm. "Is that him?" Victoria ran to the window and felt her blood turn to ice. 3 riders were approaching, and Martin was in the lead on his big bay, his face like a thundercloud. Beside him were 2 of his ranch hands, rough men who did whatever Martin told them to do. They must have seen Vincent's horse tied outside. They must know something was wrong. "He is here," Victoria said, and her voice was pure terror. "He is here with others. What do I do?" Vincent's jaw tightened. He looked at her, then at the door, then back at her. "Do you trust me? I do not know you, I know, but right now I am all you have. Do you trust me?" Victoria met his eyes and saw no cruelty there, no calculation, just steady determination and something that might have been protectiveness. She made a decision in a heartbeat. "Yes." "Then get in that wagon and get down low. I will handle this. He will hurt you." "He will try," Vincent said grimly. "Now go." Victoria did not argue. She ran outside, climbed into the wagon, and crouched down behind the seat, her heart hammering against her ribs. Through the gap in the boards, she could see Martin dismounting, his face red with fury. The two ranch hands stayed on their horses, hands near their guns. "What the hell are you doing here, Rourke?" Martin's voice was loud and aggressive, meant to intimidate. Vincent stood on the porch, relaxed but ready, his hand near his own pistol. "Came by to talk to you about the water rights on the southern border of our properties. Your wife said you would be back soon, so I waited." It was a smooth lie, delivered with perfect calm. Victoria held her breath. Martin looked past Vincent toward the house, his eyes narrowing. "Where is Victoria?" She said she had errands in town, left about 20 minutes ago. "In what?" "The wagon is right there." Martin pointed and Victoria's heart stopped. He would check. He would find her, but Vincent did not flinch. "She took your horse, said something about picking up supplies." Martin's expression shifted to confusion, then suspicion. He started toward the house and Vincent moved to block him, casual but definite. "Like I said, she is not here. You want to discuss the water rights or not? Get out of my way, Rourke. Cannot do that. You are being rude to a neighbor who came by for legitimate business. Now, we can talk like civilized men, or you can explain to Sheriff Wallace why you are threatening me on your own property in front of witnesses." Vincent's voice was still calm, but there was steel underneath now. Martin's hand moved toward his gun. Vincent's moved faster. The ranch hands tensed. For a moment, Victoria was certain someone was going to die, possibly her, possibly Vincent, possibly all of them. The desert air felt thick with violence waiting to happen. Then one of the ranch hands cleared his throat. "Boss, maybe we should just let him go. Ain't worth trouble with the law." Martin stood there vibrating with rage, his hand still near his weapon. Vincent did not move, did not back down, did not show even a flicker of fear. The moment stretched out like taffy, long and thin and ready to break. Finally, Martin stepped back, his face twisted with disgust. "Get off my property, Rourke, and if I find out you have been sniffing around my wife, I will kill you myself." Vincent tipped his hat, polite as Sunday church. "Noted. Good day to you." He walked down the steps, untied his horse, and swung into the saddle. Then he did something that nearly stopped Victoria's heart. He rode straight to the wagon, leaned down, and said loudly enough for Martin to hear, "I will take this into town for you since Mrs. Jane will need it for her supplies. You can pick it up at the livery later." Before Martin could object, Vincent snapped the reins and the wagon lurched forward. Victoria pressed herself flat against the boards, barely breathing as they rolled away from the house. She could hear Martin shouting behind them, but the words were lost in the rumble of wheels and the thunder of her own pulse in her ears. They moved faster, Vincent urging the horses into a trot, then a canter. They were racing now, racing away from her old life, and Victoria did not dare lift her head until they had been riding for what felt like hours, but was probably only 10 minutes. When she finally sat up, they were on the main road heading east, away from Fort Stanton, away from Martin, away from everything she had known for 3 years. Vincent glanced back at her, his face still grim but relieved. "You all right?" Victoria realized she was crying, tears streaming down her face, but she was also laughing. "I am alive. I am away from him. Yes, I am all right." He is going to come looking for you, Vincent said seriously. We bought maybe an hour, maybe two. He will check the town first, but when he does not find you there, he will realize what happened. We need to get you somewhere safe before then. Where? Santa Fe is days away. He will catch us. Vincent was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he said, I know a place. There is a ranch about 15 miles north of here, run by a widow named Clara Reynolds. She is tough as nails and does not have any love for men who hurt women. She will hide you until it is safe to move on, or longer if you need. Why are you doing this? Victoria asked again, because she still could not understand it. You are risking everything for me. Martin will come after you. You could lose your job, your reputation, everything. Vincent looked at her then, really looked at her, and his eyes were full of something Victoria had not seen directed at her in years. Respect, maybe, or recognition of her humanity. Because it is the right thing to do, he said simply. And because I have seen too many women trapped in situations like yours, convinced they have no choice but to endure. My mother almost died before she found the courage to leave. I swore then that if I ever had the chance to help someone in that situation, I would. So here we are. They rode in silence for a while, the wagon bouncing over the rough road, the desert stretching out around them in shades of gold and rust under the afternoon sun. Victoria felt strange, unmoored, like she was floating above her own life watching it happen to someone else. She had been so focused on escaping that she had not thought beyond the moment of leaving. Now, sitting in a wagon driven by a man she barely knew, heading toward an uncertain future, the reality of what she had done began to sink in. What if he finds me at this Clara's ranch? She asked quietly. He will not. Clara's place is off the main roads and she has 3 sons who are all bigger than your husband. Martin might be mean, but he is not stupid enough to take on 4 armed people on their own land. And then what? I cannot hide forever. Vincent glanced at her. Then you file for divorce. Or you just disappear and start over somewhere he will never find you. Plenty of women out here have done that. The West is big enough to get lost in if you want to. Victoria had never thought of herself as someone who could just disappear, just start over. Her whole life had been about duty and expectation, marrying the man her father approved of, keeping a proper house, being a good wife even when her husband was anything but a good man. The idea that she could simply walk away from all of that, become someone new, was both terrifying and thrilling. Did your mother start over? She asked. She did. We moved to California, changed our last name. She married again eventually, a good man this time. A farmer who treated her like she was made of gold. She died happy, which is more than she would have gotten if she had stayed. Vincent's voice was soft with memory. That is what I want for you, Mrs. Jane. A chance to be happy. Something warm and fragile bloomed in Victoria's chest, something that felt dangerously close to hope. My name is Victoria, she said. You do not have to call me Mrs. Jane. I do not want to be attached to that name anymore anyway. Vincent smiled, the first real smile she had seen from him. It transformed his whole face, made him look younger and less careworn. Victoria, he repeated, testing the name. That is pretty. Strong, too, fits you. She felt herself blush, which was ridiculous given everything that was happening, but there it was. When was the last time anyone had said something kind to her? When was the last time a man had looked at her like she was a person instead of a possession or a problem? She looked away, overwhelmed, and focused on the landscape rolling past them. They rode for another hour, the sun sinking lower in the sky, painting everything in shades of orange and gold. Vincent pointed out landmarks, kept up a steady stream of conversation that Victoria suspected was meant to keep her calm and distracted. He told her about the Reynolds ranch, about Clara and her sons, about how they raised sheep in addition to cattle, which made them unpopular with some of the other ranchers, but they did not care. He told her about his own work as a foreman, about the horses he trained, about a particularly stubborn mare who had finally learned to trust him after months of patient work. "Animals are like people," he said. "They remember how you treat them. You treat them rough. They never forget. But you treat them with kindness and respect. They will give you loyalty like you would not believe." Victoria thought about that, about trust and loyalty, and what it meant to be treated with kindness. She thought about Martin, who had courted her with flowers and pretty words, then showed his true nature the moment they were married and she was trapped. She thought about Vincent, who had asked for nothing, expected nothing, and had risked everything to help her anyway. The difference between the two men was so stark it almost hurt. "There," Vincent said, pointing ahead. "That is Clara's place." Victoria saw a cluster of buildings nestled in a small valley, surrounded by corrals and pastures where sheep grazed in white clusters. The main house was larger than Martin's, built of adobe with a wide porch and real glass windows. Smoke rose from the chimney, and as they approached, Victoria saw a woman step out onto the porch, shading her eyes against the setting sun. She was tall and sturdy, with steel-gray hair pulled back in a severe bun, wearing a practical brown dress and an apron. Vincent raised his hand in greeting, and Clara waved back. They pulled up in front of the house, and Clara came down the steps, her sharp blue eyes taking in everything in seconds: the wagon, Victoria's tear-stained face, the tension in Vincent's shoulders. "Vincent Rourke," she said in a voice like gravel and honey. "What brings you out here at this hour?" "Clara, this is Victoria. She needs a place to stay for a while. Her husband is the kind of man we do not talk kindly about, if you understand my meaning." Clara's expression hardened. She looked at Victoria, and Victoria saw instant understanding and solidarity in that gaze. "I understand." "You are welcome here, girl. Stay as long as you need." "Thank you," Victoria whispered, climbing down from the wagon. Her legs were shaky, whether from relief or exhaustion or fear she could not say. Clara put a firm arm around her shoulders. "Come inside. I will make you some tea and something to eat. You look about ready to fall over." She looked at Vincent. "You staying for supper?" Vincent hesitated. "I should get back. I have work in the morning and people will notice if I am gone too long. Suit yourself. But you are welcome anytime." Clara started leading Victoria toward the house, then paused and looked back. "You did a good thing today, Vincent. Your mama would be proud." Vincent touched the brim of his hat, and Victoria saw emotion flicker across his face, too quick to name. "Thank you, Clara." His eyes found Victoria's. "You will be safe here. I promise." Victoria wanted to say something, to thank him properly, to tell him he had saved her life in more ways than one, but the words stuck in her throat. Instead, she just nodded, hoping he could see in her eyes what she could not say out loud. Vincent held her gaze for a long moment, then climbed back onto his horse and rode away into the gathering dusk. Clara squeezed Victoria's shoulders. "That is a good man right there. Rare as hen's teeth, but they do exist. Now come on, let us get you settled." The next few days passed in a blur of kindness that Victoria had forgotten could exist. Clara asked no prying questions, just gave her a room in the back of the house with a real bed and clean sheets, fed her meals that actually had flavor and substance, and treated her like a guest instead of a burden. Clara's 3 sons, Thomas, James, and William, ranging in age from 25 to 19, were polite and respectful, tipping their hats when they saw her, but giving her space to recover. They knew, she realized. Clara had told them enough that they understood without needing details. On the 3rd day, Victoria was helping Clara in the kitchen when they heard riders approaching. Victoria's whole body went rigid with fear. "Do you think it is him?" Clara went to the window, then relaxed. "It is just Vincent. He has been coming by every day to check on you, though he never asks to see you. Just wants to know you are all right. He has been coming every day. Every evening after his work is done. Rides an hour out of his way to make sure you are safe." Clara gave her a knowing look. "Like I said, good men are rare." Victoria's heart did something complicated in her chest. She went to the window and saw Vincent talking to Thomas in the yard, his hat in his hands, his expression serious. As if sensing her gaze, he looked up at the house, and their eyes met through the glass. Even from this distance, Victoria could feel the connection, the concern, the something else that was growing between them, whether either of them had planned it or not. "Go on," Clara said gently. "Go talk to him. I can finish this." Victoria did not let herself think about it too much. She just took off her apron, smoothed her hair, and walked outside into the evening light. Vincent saw her coming and his whole face changed, relief and something warmer flooding his expression. "Victoria," he said, "how are you?" "I am well. Thanks to you." She stopped a few feet away from him, suddenly shy. "Clara says you have been coming every day." Vincent looked embarrassed. "I just wanted to make sure you were all right, that your husband had not found you. He has not. I think I really got away." Saying it out loud made it feel real for the first time. "I am free." "You deserve to be," Vincent said quietly. "You deserve every good thing, Victoria." They stood there in the golden light of sunset, the air between them charged with things neither of them knew how to say. Victoria thought about the past 3 days, how often her thoughts had returned to this man, to his kindness, to the way he had looked at her like she mattered. She thought about how her heart jumped every time she heard hoofbeats, hoping it was him. She thought about how different it felt to be near him compared to how it had felt to be near Martin, the absence of fear, the presence of something warm and safe and entirely new. "Vincent," she said carefully, "why did you really help me? The truth." He met her eyes and she saw him make a decision, saw him choose honesty. "At first because it was the right thing to do, because I could not stand by and let someone suffer when I could help. But Victoria, if I am being completely honest, it is more than that now. I have been coming here every day not just to check on you, but because I cannot stop thinking about you. Because every time I see you, I thank God I was there that day. Because you are brave and strong and beautiful. And I know this is terrible timing and you just escaped one man, and the last thing you probably want is another man in your life. But I had to tell you the truth. You deserve the truth." Victoria's breath caught. No one had ever spoken to her like that, with that kind of raw honesty and vulnerability. Martin had told her she was beautiful, but it had always felt like he was talking about a possession, something that reflected well on him. When Vincent said it, it felt like he was seeing her, really seeing who she was underneath everything. "It is not terrible timing," she heard herself say. "Or maybe it is, but I do not care. Vincent, you gave me my life back. You made me remember what it feels like to be treated with kindness and respect. I think about you all the time. I look for you every evening. And that terrifies me because I swore I would never let myself be vulnerable to a man again. But here I am, vulnerable to you." Vincent took a step closer, hope and caution warring on his face. "I would never hurt you, Victoria. I swear on everything I hold sacred. I would never raise my hand to you or speak to you with cruelty. I would spend every day of my life proving to you that not all men are like Martin." "I know," Victoria said, and realized she meant it. Something in her recognized something in him, saw the goodness that ran through him like a seam of gold in rock. "I know you would not hurt me. I think I have known that since the moment you asked if he hurt me, since the moment you offered to help without asking for anything in return." "So what do we do?" Vincent asked. "Because I want to court you properly, Victoria. I want to bring you flowers and take you on rides and earn your trust and affection the right way. But I understand if you need time. I will wait as long as you need." Victoria thought about that, about time and healing and what she needed. Part of her did want time, wanted to be alone and independent and figure out who she was outside of Martin's shadow. But another part of her, the part that had come alive in the past 3 days, the part that leaped with joy every time Vincent appeared, knew that sometimes the right person showed up at exactly the right moment, even if the moment seemed wrong. "I do need time," she said slowly. "But I do not need time away from you. I need time to heal, time to become myself again, time to learn who I am when I am not afraid. But I would like you to be there for that. I would like you to court me, Vincent Rourke. I would like to see where this goes." The smile that broke across Vincent's face was like sunrise, bright and warm and full of promise. "Yeah, yeah," Victoria said, and smiled back, feeling something unfurl in her chest that might have been happiness, actual genuine happiness. Vincent reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, and took her hand. His grip was warm and gentle, his thumb brushing across her knuckles in a gesture that was tender rather than possessive. "Then I will be here, every day if you will have me. And I will show you what it is like to be cherished, Victoria. I promise you that." True to his word, Vincent came every evening after that. Sometimes he brought flowers from the meadow near his ranch, wildflowers in purples and yellows that Clara put in a jar on the kitchen table. Sometimes he brought books he thought Victoria might like, knowing she loved to read but had been forbidden to spend money on such things when she was married. Sometimes he just brought himself, sitting on the porch with her as the sun set, talking about everything and nothing, learning each other in increments. Victoria discovered that Vincent was 26 years old, that he loved horses more than almost anything, that he had learned to read late because his father had thought education was useless for ranch work, that his favorite food was his mother's apple pie, and he had never found another that compared. She learned that he was patient and thoughtful, that he listened more than he spoke, that he had a quiet sense of humor that snuck up on her and made her laugh when she least expected it. Vincent learned that Victoria was 22, that she had wanted to be a schoolteacher before her father married her off, that she could recite poetry from memory, that she was terrified of snakes but fascinated by them at the same time. He learned that she had a sharp mind and a sharper wit that Martin had tried to crush, but had not quite succeeded. He learned that when she laughed, really laughed without fear or self-consciousness, it was the best sound he had ever heard. 2 weeks after Victoria arrived at Clara's ranch, word came through town that Martin had left New Mexico territory, heading east to Texas where he had family. No one knew if he was looking for Victoria or if he had just given up and moved on. Clara's son Thomas, who had made discreet inquiries, reported that Martin had told people his wife had run off with a traveling salesman, that she was a faithless woman, and he was well rid of her. It was a lie, but it was the kind of lie that gave Victoria her freedom. If Martin wanted people to think she had left him for another man, he could not very well come after her without looking like a fool. His pride had set her free. When Victoria heard the news, she wept with relief. Vincent held her on the porch while she cried, his arms around her, his voice murmuring reassurances. "You are safe now. He is gone. You are really, truly safe." As spring turned to summer, Victoria began to heal in ways she had not known she needed. The fear that had lived in her bones for 3 years started to fade, replaced by something steadier and warmer. She laughed more. She slept through the night without nightmares. She made friends with Clara and even learned to enjoy the company of Clara's sons, who treated her like a little sister and made her feel protected without feeling trapped. And through it all, there was Vincent. Vincent, who courted her with a gentleness and respect that still amazed her. He never pushed, never demanded, never expected anything she was not ready to give. Their first kiss happened on a warm evening in July, 2 months after the day he had helped her escape. They were sitting on the porch watching the stars come out, and Victoria had just finished reciting a poem she loved, something by Elizabeth Barrett Browning about loving someone with one's whole being. Vincent had looked at her with such tenderness that it took her breath away. "May I kiss you?" he asked quietly. "If it is too soon, I understand. But Victoria, I have wanted to kiss you for so long I feel like I might burst with it." Victoria felt her heart race, but not with fear, with anticipation, with desire, with the thrilling knowledge that she wanted him. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, you may." Vincent cupped her face in his hands, calloused and gentle, and kissed her with a reverence that made her feel like something precious and rare. It was nothing like kissing Martin had been, all demand and possession. This was a question and an answer, a conversation in a language they were both learning. When they pulled apart, Victoria was crying again, but these were good tears, healing tears. "I love you," Vincent said, the words tumbling out like he could not hold them back another second. "I know it is fast. I know we have only known each other a few months, but Victoria, I love you. I love your strength and your courage and your kindness. I love the way you recite poetry and the way you laugh at my terrible jokes. I love everything about you, and I will keep loving you for as long as you will let me." Victoria pressed her forehead against his, overwhelmed with emotion. "I love you too," she said, and it was the truth, simple and profound. "I did not think I could feel this way about anyone. I thought Martin had broken something in me that could not be fixed. But Vincent, you make me feel whole. You make me feel like myself again, like the girl I was before everything went wrong. I love you so much it scares me." "Do not be scared," Vincent said softly. "I have got you, always." They sat there under the stars, holding each other, and Victoria felt something click into place in her soul. This was what love was supposed to be. This safety, this warmth, this feeling of being seen and valued and cherished. Not the cage Martin had built around her, but wings that would let her fly. In August, Vincent asked her to marry him. They were on a ride together, something they did often now, just the two of them exploring the beautiful harsh landscape of New Mexico. Vincent had packed a picnic, and they sat by a small creek eating bread and cheese and apples while the horses grazed nearby. Out of nowhere, Vincent took her hand and said, "Victoria, I know you just got out of one marriage, and the last thing you probably want is to jump into another one. But I need you to know that I want that with you. I want to marry you, build a life with you, wake up next to you every day for the rest of my life. I am not asking you to say yes right now. I will wait as long as you need. But I wanted you to know that is where my heart is." Victoria looked at him, this good man who had saved her and loved her and never once made her feel anything less than equal. She thought about the future, about what it would look like tied to him versus what it would look like alone. The truth was, she did not want to be alone. She had been alone in her marriage to Martin, isolated and afraid. With Vincent, she was never alone. She was part of something bigger and better and full of possibility. "I do not need to wait," she said. "Vincent, I want to marry you. Not because I need someone to take care of me, I can take care of myself now, thanks to you, but because I choose you, because I love you and I trust you and I want to build that life with you. So yes, yes, I will marry you." The joy on Vincent's face was incandescent. He pulled her into his arms, spinning her around, both of them laughing like children. When he set her down, He kissed her thoroughly, and Victoria felt happiness fill her up like light, bright and warm and healing. They were married in September, a small ceremony at Clara's ranch with just a few friends and neighbors as witnesses. Clara cried, dabbing at her eyes with her apron. Thomas, James, and William all shook Vincent's hand and told him to take good care of their friend. The local preacher, an old man with kind eyes who knew Victoria's story, kept the ceremony short and sweet, focusing on love and commitment and the hope of a new beginning. Victoria wore a simple blue dress that Clara had helped her make, and Vincent wore his best shirt and a new vest he had bought specially for the occasion. When the preacher said they were married, Vincent kissed her in front of everyone, and Victoria felt a surge of joy so intense it almost hurt. This was her life now. This good man, this new start, this future full of promise. They moved into a small house on the property where Vincent worked, a place the owner had offered them at a reduced rent as a wedding gift. It was humble but clean, with 2 rooms and a small kitchen and a porch where they could sit in the evenings. Victoria loved it immediately, loved the way it was theirs, a space they could build together without the shadows of the past hanging over them. The first few months of marriage were an adjustment, but nothing like what Victoria had experienced before. She and Vincent learned each other's rhythms, figured out how to share space and responsibilities. Vincent never once raised his voice to her, never criticized or demeaned her. When they disagreed, which was rare, they talked it through like adults, with respect and kindness. Victoria kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for Vincent to reveal some hidden cruelty, but it never came. He was exactly who he appeared to be, a good, honorable man who loved her completely. In the spring of 1879, Victoria realized she was pregnant. The discovery filled her with conflicting emotions. She wanted children, had always wanted them, but the idea of being pregnant and vulnerable brought back memories of her time with Martin, of feeling trapped and powerless. She told Vincent her fears one night in bed, and he held her close and promised her that this would be different. "You are not trapped, Victoria. You are my partner, my equal. We are in this together, and I will take care of you every step of the way. And if you decide you do not want to have children, we will figure that out too. Your body, your choice. Always." His words soothed her, and as her pregnancy progressed, Victoria found herself actually enjoying it. Vincent was attentive without being overbearing, helping with chores as she got bigger and more tired, rubbing her feet in the evenings, talking to her belly and making her laugh. Clara came by often with advice and supplies, and Vincent's boss even gave him extra time off as the due date approached. In November 1879, Victoria gave birth to a healthy baby boy. They named him Samuel, after Vincent's grandfather, and he was perfect in every way that mattered. Vincent held his son with tears streaming down his face, looking at Victoria like she had given him the entire world. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for this gift. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for everything." Victoria, exhausted and euphoric, smiled at her husband and her son and felt a completeness she had never imagined possible. This was her family. This was her life, and it was good. The years that followed were full of the ordinary magic of a happy life. Samuel grew into a bright, energetic boy who looked like his father but had his mother's curiosity and love of learning. Victoria taught him to read from her treasured books, and Vincent taught him to ride and rope and care for animals. They had a daughter 2 years later, Lily, who was gentle and thoughtful and adored her big brother. And then another son, Michael, who was born in 1884 and was wild and funny and kept them all on their toes. Vincent worked his way up from foreman to part owner of the ranch, his hard work and integrity earning him respect and opportunity. Victoria started a small school in their town, teaching the children of ranchers and settlers who had nowhere else to send their kids for education. She loved the work, loved seeing young minds open up to knowledge and possibility. It was the dream she had given up on, now made real. They were not rich, but they were comfortable. More importantly, they were happy. Vincent never stopped courting Victoria, even after years of marriage. He still brought her wildflowers, still told her he loved her every single day, still looked at her like she was the most beautiful woman in the world. And Victoria, who had once thought she would never trust a man again, trusted Vincent with everything she was. In 1890, 12 years after the day Vincent had helped her pack her bags and escape, Victoria and Vincent sat on their porch watching their 3 children play in the yard. Samuel was 15 now, tall and responsible. Lily was 10, with her mother's love of poetry and her father's steadiness. Michael was 6, all mischief and energy. The sun was setting over the desert, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, and Victoria leaned against her husband's shoulder with a contentment that still amazed her. "You ever think about that day?" Vincent asked quietly. "The day I came by your house and you were packing." "All the time," Victoria said honestly. "It was the worst day and the best day of my life, the day everything changed. I think about it too. I think about what would have happened if I had not stopped by, if I had not decided to help. I think about how close I came to never knowing you, never having this life." Vincent tightened his arm around her. "It terrifies me, Victoria, the idea that we might have missed each other." "But we did not," Victoria said, turning to look at him. "You were there exactly when I needed you. You unpacked my bags yourself when I was ready to run, and you gave me a reason to stay. Not stay with Martin God, no, but stay in New Mexico, stay and build a life, stay and find happiness. You gave me that, Vincent. You gave me everything." "You gave me everything too," Vincent said softly. "Before you, I was just going through the motions, working and living but not really feeling alive. You woke me up, Victoria. You made me believe in love, in partnership, in family. You are the best thing that ever happened to me." They kissed there on the porch while their children played and the sun set over the land they loved. It was a kiss that held 12 years of love and trust and shared joy. It was a kiss that promised more years to come, more sunsets, more ordinary magical moments. Victoria had thought once that she would never be happy again. She had thought Martin had broken something essential in her, something that could never be repaired. But Vincent had shown her the truth that she was not broken, just hurt, that with time and love and patience she could heal. That she deserved happiness and partnership and respect. That love was not supposed to hurt. It was supposed to make you better, stronger, more yourself. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Victoria thought about the girl she had been, packing her bags in terror, desperate to escape. She thought about the woman she had become, surrounded by love and laughter, and a family she had built with a man who cherished her. And she thought about Vincent, who had seen her fear and met it with courage, who had given her a chance at a new life, and then spent every day proving he was worthy of her trust. "I love you," she whispered against his lips. "I will love you until the day I die, and probably beyond that too." "I will hold you to that," Vincent said with a smile. "Forever, Victoria, you and me forever." And it was. Their children grew up strong and happy, carrying with them the example of their parents' love. Samuel became a horse trainer like his father, known throughout New Mexico for his skill and patience. Lily became a teacher like her mother, opening a larger school in Santa Fe and teaching generations of children. Michael, true to his wild nature, became an explorer, traveling throughout the West and sending letters home full of adventures and discoveries. Vincent and Victoria grew old together, their love deepening with every passing year. They added onto their house, hosted Sunday dinners for their growing family, welcomed grandchildren with joy and wonder. Clara remained a close friend until her death in 1898, and Vincent and Victoria were there for her sons as they mourned, just as Clara had been there for them when they needed it most. When people asked Victoria about her life, about how she had found such happiness after such a difficult start, she always told them the same thing. I learned that running away from something terrible is just the beginning. The real work is running toward something better, something worth building. And I ran toward Vincent. He met me halfway and we built this life together, piece by piece, day by day. That is the secret. Find someone who will meet you halfway, who will work with you instead of against you, who will love you even when it is hard. Find that, and you will be all right. Vincent would always add with a smile, and be brave enough to help when you see someone who needs it. You never know, you might be saving your own future. They celebrated their 40th wedding anniversary in 1919. Surrounded by children and grandchildren, and even a few great-grandchildren. The party was held at the ranch where Vincent had worked for so many years, now partially owned by their son Samuel. There was food and music and dancing, and Victoria and Vincent danced together like they had at their wedding all those years ago, holding each other close, still in love, still grateful for every moment they had been given. That night, lying in bed in the house they had shared for 4 decades, Victoria took Vincent's hand in the darkness. "Thank you for unpacking my bags," she said softly. "Thank you for giving me a reason to stay." Vincent squeezed her hand, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for trusting me enough to stay. Thank you for building this life with me. Thank you for loving me. You are still the best thing that ever happened to me, Victoria." "And you are still the best thing that ever happened to me," Victoria whispered back. They fell asleep like that, holding hands in the darkness, 2 souls who had found each other in the chaos and built something beautiful together. They had weathered storms and celebrated triumphs. They had raised children and buried friends. They had laughed and cried and fought and made up. They had lived a full, rich, complicated, beautiful life together. And it all started on that day in May 1878 when a frightened woman packed her bags to escape and a good man decided to help. When fear met courage. When despair met hope. When one life ended and another, better one began. Victoria Jane and Vincent Rourke lived out their days in love and contentment, proving that even in the harsh, unforgiving landscape of the Wild West, genuine love could not only survive but thrive. Their story became part of family legend, passed down through generations as an example of courage, kindness, and the transformative power of choosing love over fear. Vincent passed away peacefully in his sleep in 1925 at the age of 73, with Victoria holding his hand. She followed him less than a year later, as if she could not bear to be without him for long. They were buried side by side in the small cemetery overlooking the valley where they had built their life, their headstones simple but bearing an inscription that told their whole story. She ran toward freedom. He met her halfway. Together they built forever. Their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren would visit those graves for decades to come, bringing wildflowers and telling stories about the woman who was brave enough to leave, and the man who was kind enough to help. About love that healed wounds. About partnership that made both people better. About a life well lived together. And in the end, that was everything that mattered. Victoria had escaped not just from a cruel husband but toward a beautiful future. Vincent had not just helped a woman in need, he had found his soulmate. Together they had created something that lasted far beyond their own years, a legacy of love and respect and joy that rippled outward through their family and into the world. The bags had been packed. The decision had been made to run. But Vincent had unpacked those bags and given Victoria something better than escape. He had given her a home in his heart. And that had made all the difference.